problem, my
So,
man.
so how are you? How are you, brother? How are you doing?
Good, good, man. How about yourself?
I'm really good. It's about time that we met and had a chat.
Yeah, face to face for the first time.
Yeah, you and your lovely wife have been like I think you were among my first followers on the Instagram page. You were like there from the very beginning.
Yeah, good stuff, man. You always posted some quality content, my friend.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I'm the reason. Well, I obviously, as I told you, the reason I wanted to like have a talk with you is well, the wrestling thing. It's absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, man, it was a good time for sure.
When
Rock
did
star
you?
lifestyle for a little while.
Yeah, I believe that. When did you start doing it?
So I started training in 1993, and I was 19 years old at that time.
Yeah,
My first match was when I was 20 years old in 1994.
1994. And where was that?
That original match was in Kansas City, Kansas, at one of the big stadiums that they have up there.
What? Just to clarify, even if I'm gonna tell you how long I've actually been following this stuff, but this stuff is barely known in Iceland. Like Icelanders know who Hulk Hogan is, but that's about it. So, if you could tell us a little bit about the business itself, how it works, and what it is.
Yeah, man, no problem. So here in the U.S., it's been pretty big. It started its boom period in the '80s. That would have been when Hulk Hogan kind of got that rocket ship started in the WWF at the time. And by the time 94, 95 came along, that's when it really hit its what we call the zenith. That was when it was probably the largest. It got from 96 to 2001 to 2002. That's when stadium crowds averaged, 30,000 people per show at the WWF event or a WCW event. That's when we still had a lot of the territories going on. That's where it was more of the independent workers were still working in the regional areas of the country at the time. So you still had the grassroots of professional wrestling, so that in the inner communities as well as internationally and nationally on the scene.
And like this is a brutal business, isn't it? Like this is not for the faint of heart. This is not for weak people.
No, it's really not. That was one of the preconceived notions, and I don't even really get into a lot of with strangers because they always want to start right off with that. Oh, you mean that fake stuff? And
Yeah,
it's borderline offensive because I'll tell you this: the outcomes are predetermined for sure, but there's absolutely nothing fake about the violence that's going on in the ring. So I did college football, high school football. I've done professional fighting in MMA, and I guarantee you that at some point during a professional wrestling match, it is more intense than either one of those things: an organized fight, a street fight, or football. And I've done all those things. It's absolutely intense. It's absolutely brutal. I feel it to this day. I hurt most mornings when I get up. I have limited mobility. I've had a string of injuries, just a laundry list of stuff that goes on. I would stack my injuries or any professional wrestler's injuries up against any pro athlete in any sport going. It's absolutely brutal.
yeah. I remember Brock Lesnar saying that when he was competing in the UFC, that the UFC was a joke compared to the wrestling business. And,
Yeah, because and the reason why he said that was because in the USC you get 6 to 9 months to train. You fight maybe 1 to 2 times per year, and in a typical WWE and WWF schedule is 250 to 300 dates a year. And that's a lot of abuse that you're putting on your body. Those rings are not trampolines. They're steel and they're wood, and they don't give like people think they do.
sorry, the entire family has been coughing and sick. This like the entire most of the city actually. But Yeah, this I always I like saying that as you mentioned earlier, like the wrestling is scripted. It's actually that you most people go like full circle on it. Oh well, or half circle, should I say? Like first they believe it's absolutely real, then they
Yes.
think it's fake, and then they actually come to the realization that the outcomes are predetermined, but then that it's absolutely brutal.
Yeah, it really is. I had when I first started, I tried to bring my cousin along with me, and this guy is 6'6", 360, and he hit that ring twice. And you start off with a very rudimentary bump where you're sitting on somebody's back and you just fall back on the ring. And he took like 3 of those, and he was absolutely done. He was like, "No, this is not for me. This hurts." And there's techniques to it. If you don't know how to fall and how to take those impacts, you're not going to make it, period. You're not going to make it one day, one match. I tell anybody that if you want to think it's fake, just run the ropes. People don't understand those ropes are quarter-inch steel cables, and they're usually just inside of a garden hose. When you hit those, if you don't know how to hit the ropes right, you will get bruises and bruised lungs. They're pretty brutal.
Yeah, I remember that I was actually showing a friend of mine. I was showing him some of the extremes that have been performed in this sport.
Unbelievable. Look at this, folks. Undertaker is still on top of this Hell in the Cell match. One of 2 main events you'll see here tonight. He's got a smile on his face. Are you kidding me? He wants to go back up. Throws him up on the other side. The Undertaker.
And at first,
Oh yeah.
he was like going about it as in, oh no, not that stuff. Like that stuff's fake. But then I started showing him some of the stuff and telling him you can't fake this. And
No, yeah.
after that, he was like me. He couldn't stop watching some of the highlights and some of those things that are performed in there. Like this is you need to be a special kind of athlete to do some of this stuff, especially considering the size of some of you guys.
Yeah, and you have to have a pronounced sadomasochistic streak
Yeah.
as well. Also, about 95 and 96 in Japan, which has a rich history of professional wrestling as well. They started off with the king of the death match. And a lot of the stuff over there, they would have, the barbed wire wrap baseball bats and exploding glass
Yeah.
and thumbtacks. Thumbtacks were a big deal. And that carried over to the U.S., and I got involved in that as well. Probably about 97, 98 is when it really started picking up here. There was a small group called Extreme Championship Wrestling, and they brought that Japanese and European style and the lucha libre, Mexican style, here to America, which was a lot rougher and a lot more physical than what you were going to see. If most of the people are familiar with Hulk Hogan and in WWF, they're getting the very watered down cartoon version of what professional wrestling was at its height.
Yeah, and one of the things that always fascinated me that I found so fascinating about this business is the lifestyle that's involved. You're on the road like the entire year, aren't you? Like you're traveling.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. We would leave out on Mondays and we would be gone 10, 14 days at a time before we would get back home. And then you're only home maybe 2 days and you're back out on the road again.
What does
Yeah,
that
it's
do to a family
absolutely
life?
brutal schedule.
Yeah,
Well, most everybody that I was with at the time, myself included, you will go through at least one marriage, and it's definitely hard on a family. You can't have a normal family life. You just can't. I don't know anybody that's been in the biz and has been successful to any degree that was able to maintain a steady, stable family life. Not anybody that you would see on Monday nights to this day. Every one of those guys, I would say, has probably been through several families just trying to make it. That's just one of the sacrifices you have to make.
and one thing that also a lot of Icelanders they don't realize it's that there's a lot of there's a lot of people trying to get into this business. A lot of like huge, like muscular Hercules looking guys that are trying to get into this business. Like what does it take to do what you did?
Well, first and foremost, you're absolutely right. You had to have more so then than today. Today they're transitioning more into the smaller guys, and since the cat's out of the bag, so to speak, on the outcome being predetermined, a lot of your casual fans now have shifted away from the athletic nature of it. But in the 90s and through the 2000s, you absolutely had to be either a former professional athlete or a college athlete. I'm 6'3", 265, and that's not a big guy by standards back then. I was pretty much viewed as an average size guy back then.
Holy
And
shit.
yeah, there was I wrestled a lot of the guys I wrestled were over 300 pounds for sure. That was the big thing back in the 90s, especially WWF and WCW, where the big boys play was their theme and what they were running with. And most of the guys on the roster toward the upper end of the main event scene were 6'5" to 7 foot tall, 300 pounds, and just jacked out of their mind on steroids as well.
And I want to start with like kayfabe. Could you explain what that is or was?
Yeah, that's certainly. Yeah, it was just kayfabe is not keeping or cluing in the fans on what's going on behind the scenes. It's not letting them know, and it was super important until probably about 1988, 89. It was wrestlers would speak in what we call Carney talk, and we would change the words around so what we're saying. It was very important. Never was seen. Like if you were a good guy versus a bad guy, you could never be seen together. You certainly didn't want to let the outcomes be known. It was just it was almost mafia like how we kept the inner workings of the business secret at the time, and that's pretty much kayfabe.
Yeah, because I remember, just to give you a little background, why this is such a how I got into watching this stuff is because when I was, I think it was before around 1990 or something. My dad in a tiny fishing village in the northeast of Iceland, he actually bought a satellite that could catch Sky One, and they had some wrestling events. And like me and my brother, I was like 10 and he was 7. We saw this and there was no going back. We were like we were hooked on the stuff. And I do remember then everyone thought that this was just real, like completely like that the guys were actually fighting.
Yeah, and once again, they actually are. You
Yeah.
will know who's going to win at the end, but probably 90% of what you're going through in that ring is full on contact. Especially back then.
Yeah.
You didn't even want people to see you not making contact. That was probably about 2005 to 2000, all the way through now. But after 2005, there was a big focus shift into let's take care of one another. And they would work harder at pulling the punches and stuff like that. But back early on, from when I started watching in the 70s through the whole time that I did it through the early 2000s, it was very brutal. It was very physical in nature. Absolutely.
Yeah. I want like people to get a picture like of this because people don't realize like people took it so seriously. Like when the big names came to wrestle their local hero, like and especially if that guy was someone like Ric Flair or like a proper heel or something, they could actually make the entire crowd like they were sometimes in danger. I remember them saying that like people took this so seriously.
Oh, absolutely. That's the point as a heel, and that's what I try to focus most of my career. I was focused on being a heel,
Yeah.
and you absolutely want to get that response from the crowd. Several times in the events, just getting to the ring and getting back to the dressing room, if we had to get through the crowd, people were ready to jump on you, literally jump on you. I've had people pull knives on me. People follow me out in the parking lots after the event and be waiting out there. I mean, but you want that. You absolutely want to suspend the reality to the point to where you have them so wound up, they're ready to kill you. I mean, that was the point.
And speaking of which, like, people have been killed over this. I remember, like, was it in, where was it that this Bruiser Brody, like, he was a huge
so I'll tell you about the Bruiser Brody. Yeah, this is the deal with Bruiser Brody, and it was he was a guy that was known for, he was not going to go put you over. If he wanted to come in and he was going to win, that was his understanding of it. And this happened in Puerto Rico, the event you're talking about. And he had taken on the Invader, was the guy's name at the time, 2 weeks prior to, and he was supposed to put the Invader over, but he decided he didn't want to. And he literally physically beat the guy pretty badly. And so 2 to 3 weeks later, the Invader's also on the booking committee. So he's part owner in the wrestling company that brought Bruiser Brody down there to wrestle, and literally waited till after the match and went in the shower and stabbed and murdered him. And that's insane. It happened. Yeah, absolutely.
And what's, just to for people who don't know the term, putting over, what is that?
Okay, when you put somebody over, that means you allow them to win, basically. And that's a kind of a time-honored tradition too. You're supposed to get to the point where you respect the guy enough to put them over, or they respect you enough to put you over. That's the basis of the inner workings of what wrestling was to the boys, to the guys in the back.
And like, to be successful at it, you can't just be good in the ring. You have to, like, work up the crowd, make the crowd go nuts, and you have to be a performer as well, right?
Yeah, and absolutely, the performer aspect of it is that's what took professional wrestling from the back alley to the main events and selling out 100,000 seat capacity stadiums, was the entertainment value. I was not a big Hulk Hogan fan growing up because I could tell of the overly caricatured cartoon nature of what he was presenting. But at the same time, he absolutely took professional wrestling to the next level with the crowd involvement. That's really what it's all about. You've got to, what we call in the business, put butts in the seats. To put butts in the seats, people have to be emotionally invested in your character. Ric Flair was one of the absolute best on the other end of the spectrum. He would just get people so riled up and so aggravated, they just had to pay that money to see this guy get his. That's what they wanted to see.
Yeah, the worst thing you could get in this business is indifference, right? You want to be hated.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you go out there, you won't have an opportunity. If you go out there and you get zero response from the crowd, you won't have a second opportunity. You're just not worth it. There's, like, to your point, there's too many people. It's too competitive. They're going to get the next guy in there to see if he's going to get the response from the crowd that they need, that's going to bring that person back and make them want to pay to come see it again.
And back in your day, when you were, like, doing this stuff, the traveling alone, did you travel alone, or did you have a partner, or were there several of you that traveled together, or?
Yeah, you always try to partner up with somebody on the road. I started the business with, I told you I had the one cousin who was 6'6", but he didn't make it, but his little brother did. And he was more my size. He was 6'1", 6'2", 240, 250. So, and we rode the first 6 years of wrestling. It was me and him, and we would go and we'd be booked as a tag team everywhere we went. He kind of dropped out after about 6 or 7 years, but I would always pair up with somebody, and it would be somebody that I would either wrestle against or that I would tag with against other people in the town. But you have to split fuel costs. You have to split hotel room costs just to be able to make it. that was another thing too. A lot of people thought, even back then, it's the absolute zenith of professional wrestling. I had a guy that was a good friend of mine. He trained with me, and he went on to be a champion, tag team champion for Vince on TV. And this guy was only making $125,000 a year, and he was spending $50,000 plus in transportation getting to and from. So I mean, it's never going to be a business, maybe 1% of the business where you're going to be absolute millionaire.
Yeah.
The rest of the guys, man, are like truck driver kind of money.
Why is it so like what? Then why are so many guys trying to get into it?
The thrill.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, dude, the thrill of the business was why I got into it. Starting at a very young age, it was like professional wrestling was like wrestling with your father in the living room, and you feel that every time you're in the ring, and you want to inspire the future generation just like you were inspired as a kid.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really more so what it was about than the money.
Yeah, I can imagine it. Like, and also, like people don't realize that like wrestlers are like rock stars, like in those areas.
Absolutely. Every locker room, every show had the various drug dealers. You could get your cocaine, you could get your steroids, you could get your marijuana, and almost every one of the guys, there was almost a nightclub. Almost every show had a couple of bouncers from the local strip clubs or the local biggest clubs. So almost every night that we had a show, it would end up, we would be at a bar somewhere partying, and then we would carry the party to the hotel rooms.
Yeah.
And it was a rock star lifestyle. Absolutely was.
And this is not just like people also don't realize that this is not just a job. This is a lifestyle. This is not.
No, absolutely. That's once again, it takes you from your family. It takes you from everyone and everything you've ever known. The very best of the business give themselves completely to the business.
And like, what's the roughest stuff you've ever done in the ring? Like you mentioned something about barbed wire and baseball bats.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We did like I said, in that mid to late '90s, it came over here, and that was one of the specialties that I did. I would do I would sit up a table beside the ring and cover it with tacks, and then light it on fire. Get back in the ring, pick the guy up, and slam him off from the inside of the ring through the burning table outside. And I would go with him. And Bob Wires, we would do a three-way dance where there's three of us in there, and we're using a barbed wire bat, we're using PVC pipe, we're using ladders, we're using steel chairs. It was a very sadomasochistic time in professional wrestling. There was a point where it got to the point it was just too much brutality. It was ratcheted up to the point. I think that culminated with, and I don't know if any of your fans have ever seen it, but there was a 1998 match between Undertaker and Mankind was the guy's name, and he came off the top of a 30-foot cage and crashed through a table beside the ring, and broken ribs, broken wrist. I did that myself. A lot of the rings that we worked in at the time were old boxing rings. Yeah. And I remember one time a guy picked me up, a guy that was 6'5" guy, 300-pound guy picked me up. And when we came down and I hit, all the air went out of my body and I could barely see. I was looking up at the lights and I saw a little red blob and it hit on my chest and I looked down, it was a blood clot. And I had dislocated a rib and punctured a lung.
Sorry, you
and that night
you went mute there, William.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you went mute all of a sudden.
What about now? Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Something happened to your mic.
End. Cut headphones off. Helps. What about now? Can you hear me now? Is that any better?
Can't hear anything.
Sorry.
Let me see if it's my headphones, actually. Just give me a second. Could be.
I can hear you fine on my end.
connect to my headphones again. It's those goddamn. Could you say something now?
Hello, can you
Yeah.
hear me now?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It's
All right.
mine, huh? For some reason. It's those Bluetooth things. I don't like wearing the
The headphones like that, yeah.
But yeah, you were saying you saw the blood.
Yeah, it was a big blood clot when I looked down at my chest, and I had dislocated a rib, and I had punctured a lung. And the concession cup that night, I remember I filled up a 16-ounce concession cup with blood, and we didn't even go to the hospital at the time, because that's another thing. You don't have they didn't offer medical benefits in professional wrestling, so you just pretty much had to pack it up, suck it up, and you're off to the next town anyway. And that happened to a lot of guys. And that's why today, the pain is so much more now, because you don't get the opportunity to get it treated. Because also, if you take the night off because you're hurt, then that next guy's got his opportunity. And that's an opportunity you may not ever get again. That's how competitive it was.
Yeah, that's what I meant about the business being so brutal. I remember like guys getting shamed for like breaking bones in the ring and trying to either cancel a fight or not being able to show up the next day. Like there's no mercy in this business.
No, absolutely not. One of the biggest jokes, and they always a lot of people rib on Kevin Nash. He was one of the bigger stars in the WWF, the NWO, and WCW. He did a lot of work with Hulk Hogan, but he tore his quad off of his leg and stopped. And he, to this day, it happened 20 years ago, still gets mercilessly made fun of because, my leg, and I couldn't walk. And it was because he tore it clean off the bone and couldn't continue in the match.
Yeah, this is a legit tough guy business. Like this is not for anyone that this business will weed out the weak pretty fast, right?
Absolutely. There's been a higher percentage for professional football players from the NFL that tried and failed at professional wrestling than ever succeeded. And because of the physicality of it, there's a big difference between having to fight 5-6 times a night and being able to just practice and only compete one time a week in a game. Big difference.
Could you tell me a little bit about what it was like for you to come in so young into like such a tough guy business? Obviously, you have to make a name for yourself. You have to prove yourself in the eyes of the old timers, right?
Yeah, and absolutely. And it was one of the old timers. What it was one of the guys I trained with was one of the guys who had put Ric Flair on the business. He was the guy that was the champion at the time, Harley Race, before Ric Flair. And it's absolutely brutal. You go to his little sweatshop gym, and you just bump your ass off for hours. We have the time-honored tradition of getting chopped in, which means that everybody that's going to be in the classroom that day, usually 10 to 15 guys, you put in your corner and you put your arms over the top ropes, and everyone gets to chop you as hard as you can chop. More oftentimes than not, blood would literally come through the skin to get it. And that was an everyday thing. And I had to train like that for a year before I was even given the opportunity to perform in front of people in an actual match. Yeah, and that was every day. They go in there 5 days a week, and you just get beat up. And furthermore, like, unless you really ignite something, I was pretty lucky. I had a real passion for the business. So inside of 6 months, I had won my first title on TV. And so I was getting respect, and I didn't have to. But a lot of the guys will spend the first 5-6 years doing nothing but putting guys over and getting beat on TV every week.
Yeah, and a lot of people never even make it at all further. Like they don't even they don't ever get over that stage of their career, right?
You're absolutely right. Yeah, I would say on average a professional wrestling career is less than 5 years, and it's because of what you just said, because you never get over that hump, and you get beat down. You get more emotionally and mentally so than physically.
Yeah, and the physical beating is it's tense.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I don't know if your fans or if your crowd would understand the terms of juicing. Have you ever heard this term?
Juicing? You mean like steroid use?
No, sir. So juicing is like a lot of people will think that the blood that you see in professional wrestling, it is fake. It is absolutely not fake. So what we do is we would take small little razor blade tips and literally slice ourselves. And then the other guy, you would take aspirin or a Tylenol before the match to thin out your blood. And then you'd wait for them to hit you with a chair or hit you with that barbed wire bat. And then while you're down selling it, you just reach up and cut your forehead with this razor blade. And you start bleeding everywhere. And the other guy gets on top of you and pops it 2 or 3 times to really get the blood flowing to the area to get it really, really flowing. And that was just part of what you do. You got to get the crowd involved in all that.
And a lot of times those are like family crowds, right? They have kids there, right?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But hey, to your point, I remember the first time it ever happened to me. I was like 8 or 9 years old, and I was ringside, and I very distinctly remember the warm blood of a professional wrestler splattering me on the face. Something I never forgot.
Yeah, I think a lot of wimps would have something to say about that today.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that would definitely be considered child abuse in this day and age for sure.
And like as you were saying, like these shows, they were selling out like what was WrestleMania 3? It had like a world record for like a stadium event or something, 90 some thousand.
Yeah, 75,000, I think, for WrestleMania 3. There's been crowds, I think 97,000 at Wembley this year at AEW event. They were able to get 97,000 people in there. But like in the year of, I think it was 99 to 2000, the average attendance, and this is for over 200 shows across the entire country, all different sizes, was over 45,000 for every show there. I mean, that's an insane average amount of attendance for a year.
That's crazy. And like when you showed up in the locker rooms, like I've heard a lot of these like locker room stories, like people trying to bully each other. This wasn't all like sunshine and rainbows, was it?
No, it's absolute like I mean, football was a little bit, but to a lesser degree. It's an alpha male pecking order, and that's how guys are back in the back. I was accused of that several times myself, but for me, I wasn't really like trying to literally bully people. I was just very excitable and very alpha. So we would, going through the motions and how we want to do it. You have to establish yourself at every level in professional wrestling. You have to establish yourself in the locker room with the guys. You have to establish yourself with the fans in the ring. You have to establish yourself with the people that are watching you on TV. You have to establish yourself with the promoters that's putting on the show. You have to do that.
And there's no one there's no one helping you get there. You have to look out for number one, because there's no one else looking out for you.
And in fact, it's quite the opposite. It's everybody against you.
Yeah,
is the way it is. There's only really one guy that can be the guy, and everybody wants to be that guy. So everybody would absolutely do treacherous stuff. Like I remember one of the deals earlier. It was like my 3rd or 4th year in, and WWF was coming to town, and they contacted our local promoter, and they asked, "Hey, we saw Brett Knight. We want to have him come out for the show, and we want to see what he can do." And my promoter didn't tell me, and then told them, "Oh, he canceled out, but I can come in and I can take the shot instead." And that's just the nature of the business. It was that cutthroat, that backstabbing.
Yeah, because when there's so much money involved, and especially before, as you said, they were reaching out to the promoter and not you, and you didn't even know about this. Yeah.
Yeah, not until after the fact. That's right. Yeah, And that's how there was a hierarchy. Like those regional deals are usually ran by the guys that were at WrestleMania 2 and WrestleMania 3. Now it's 10 years later. They're not at the top of the game. They've
Yeah.
kind of gone back to the area they came from, but they've established a regional wrestling deal there. And every time the WWF or the WCW would come through, they would contact their old wrestler that was in that area and say, hey, what boys do you got? Who do you got that you think is going to make it to the next level?
And you were saying about like having so many injuries and other things because of this. There's a lot of wrestlers that die very, very young. Why is that?
The lifestyle, even more so than I guess the injuries kind of play into it a little bit because you would start taking the painkillers, but honestly, dude, a lot more recreational drug use was happening. There was a lot of guys that were my age and 10 years older where it was sad, but it was almost expected that you were going to die alone in a hotel somewhere in some small town because you come off of putting the big shows on and you're going down the pecking order now. And most every show of the regional deals would have guys that were probably 10 years past their prime. And those were the guys that were still trying to party and still trying to live the rock star lifestyle. And it just caught up with them.
I've actually seen, like, I remember seeing some guys when I was starting to watch this. And as I was saying, it was almost 35 years ago. And I am still seeing some of those guys perform in like local high schools and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
those guys were
Yeah.
not young at the time. I remember like one guy, Tito Santana, for example. I understand he's still performing.
Yeah, he probably still does. I haven't seen him do a match, but Ric Flair is 73.
Yeah.
And he did a match not more than a calendar year ago. He literally
Shit.
went unconscious during the match, almost died. And so they took him out of the ring. It was finally, but he still talks about wanting to do another match. Some guys just can't let it go. I mean, that was another part of it. You give so much of yourself to the business. Sometimes there's nothing left, and that's all you have, and that's all you are. I got out before then. I had an opportunity for a great career, and I knew that it just wasn't going to make it to the next level for me. So I got out of it after 10 years because I got a good career, and I look back now and I know that I gave everything I had to give at the time, but I'm also glad I was able to do something else with my life besides having to die in a hotel room
Yeah.
somewhere in some small town.
Yeah, it's I can imagine it's similar to like the village where I come from. There was like so many like older men where they were like, they were loners. They all they did was go to sea every day, like strong as hell, and like absolutely brutally tough men. But once they stopped working, they would age decades in a couple of years because that
Decades.
was all they had.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. Once you slow down and once you get out of that routine of doing it, you just start falling apart.
Yeah.
I've seen tons of guys the same way. They quit the business or they stop working and they're dead within 6 months.
Well, what is that? They just have nothing else to turn to and get self-destructive, or what?
A little bit of self-destructive, but it's just that's their whole life force. That was their will to live.
Yeah.
And once that will to live is gone, they just kind of wither away.
Yeah, that's why that's it's very similar to what I was referring to. That's why I think it's like I can imagine it won't be nearly as tough for someone like me to grow old because I've plenty of hobbies. like,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, absolutely. That's the
so
way, and that's a
important.
good thing. Yeah, to get out and to live life under a lot of various terms and not just be defined into one thing. Because if you put all your eggs in that one basket and that basket's gone, you're gone.
You said you did MMA as well.
Yes, sir. Yeah,
Where'd you
yeah. An
where,
organized fight.
where'd you fight?
I didn't actually get into that until I was 38 years old, and I just started doing the local Brazilian jiu-jitsu in my town. And once again, I had a coach that saw something in me. It's funny. I didn't want to tell them coming in the door either that I had done professional wrestling, because I didn't, doing something new that I'd never done. I knew they were going to extra test me. And sure enough, as soon as they found out, they were coming after me extra hard in practice. And instead of like a 3/4 speed or rolling is what we called it, it was full on. And they were actually trying to hurt me every chance they got. But the coach at the time saw something in me. He said, hey, Will, if you can learn to slip some punches, you're just a bulldozer right now. But if you can learn to slip some punches, you'd be one of the top 10 heavyweights in the state. And so I had a couple of fights like that. It was pretty good. But once again, I was already 38 when I got started. So it was more of a hobby and not something I had to do. And there was a lot of those younger guys that were going to try to make a living. This is what they were going to define themselves as. So.
Yeah. 38, I don't think people understand. Well, a lot of people understand it because I know that a lot of people who at least watch my show, like follow MMA or do MMA. And to start at 38, that's insane.
Yeah. And you talk about brutal. Like I said, I came in on the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu side, and I did some high school wrestling. So that wasn't the full-on impact stuff, like just the standing up and throwing hands, coming from a boxing background or whatnot. But yeah, it's absolutely brutal too. I tell you what, the Jiu-Jitsu and the wrestling is harder on the joints, because they'll take you down and they'll pop your shoulder out, you pop your knee out. It was pretty rough. And you don't heal at 38. You're not healing like you do when you're 18 or when you're 28.
Tell me about it.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Yeah.
Like, I remember that was just playing football. I would be running and I'd pull a hamstring, and damn it, there go a couple of weeks. But today, that's the entire winter. It's
months now. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, anything that would take two weeks to heal back then takes every bit of like 6 months to heal now.
Yeah, that's one of the worst things about getting older. I don't mind the rest, to be honest, but if we could just avoid this, I'd be good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just the pain of it. That's the pisser right there.
Yeah. I wanted to, I made, as I told you earlier, I made a little compilation. Here we are. Wanted to share that to the screen here for us.
Oh.
I put this here. I wanted to watch just a little bit here.
Oh yeah, there we go.
Here we go.
That jiu-jitsu.
1 second. I wanna start back at the beginning, because I screwed up the presentation on it there. Like, talk us through what's happening there after I put
this.
This is a real bump.
Yeah, that's what they call those. What they call the impact when your body hits the mat is called a bump. And that right there was a tag team move where my partner picks him up and it's assisted. And I just kind of grab them by the head and run up the side of the ropes and spin them down. I'm trying to hold their head down. So that's the first thing that makes contact with the mat is their face.
No, this legit hurts, right? To take?
Oh, yeah. Hurts me too, to the point my hips. Actually, the first impact is going to be me on my hips. And what you want to try to do is, if you can expand the surface contact area amongst all the people, it kind of distributes the impact out, so it's not all focused on one person. We actually took care of this guy pretty good with this.
Yeah.
You'll see one a little bit later where that's not necessarily the case.
And when you do this, as you were saying, that the mat, that is not a soft spot to land on.
No, it's absolutely not a trampoline. And once again, especially the first 5 years of my thing, we didn't have wrestling rings. We did most of the shows in old boxing rings. And in boxing rings is put together exactly like the subfloor of your house, where they put 2x10, 18 inches off the dead center. and then they'll screw 2x10s on top of it for floor decking, and they put 2 inches of carpet padding on it, and there's no give at all. That's what was in whenever I hit and I dislocated the rib and punctured my lung. It was because it was in a boxing ring. I also jumped off the top rope with a leg drop.
Oh yeah, we're about to show that later, so you can say that story. Yeah, I'm gonna have you tell me all about that.
Oh yeah, I didn't walk for 6 months after that move. As soon as I made impact, everything from the waist down went completely numb, and I had to take a 4-hour car ride home from Tulsa, Oklahoma, back to Wichita, Kansas that night, and didn't walk for 6 months after that.
Jesus.
Yeah, blew out 2 discs and it swelled up against one of the nerves and caused severe sciatic nerve damage.
Damn. Let me see if I can, no, I can't control both at once, so I'll just keep, actually, let me see about something here. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to, I just want to put this elsewhere so I can control it at the same time that I am actually, I'll just edit this part out, to be honest. I'm just gonna, it's just so I can have control over the window itself when I'm doing this.
Gotcha. Shout out to my man Malice there. He's the one that took that. I still keep in contact with that guy. He's a great guy.
Oh yeah? I can imagine, like, you have to trust someone absolutely to do this stuff, to let them do this to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you could absolutely. We could have crippled and maimed. You could kill people if you really wanted to.
People have died in this.
Yeah, absolutely, in the ring.
Yeah. Screw it. I'll just do this the old-fashioned way. Let me see. Okay, we're gonna continue here for a little bit.
Oh yeah, stretching them. That's what we call that.
Yeah.
Torquing on them a little bit, stretching them out.
And in this case, you are actually putting on quite a bit of pressure on the man, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I always like to try to make my stuff look what we call snug or tight.
Yeah.
And sometimes, a lot of times, you get complaints, but most of the time, what we did was we would just do what we call receipts in the business. If I was a little too tight for him there, he would just return the favor at the next point in the match when he was going over.
Yeah. I remember some story about it where someone was, I can't remember who was telling it. I think it was like Stone Cold. He was saying he was working with Big Show, and when he was starting out, and he would just, like, he would beat him up. He was waiting for the Big Show to man up, as he called it, and just beat the hell out of him back.
Yeah. To get that receipt, absolutely. Yeah.
And I remember.
Funny.
Sorry.
This guy here, man, he was pretty interesting. He went on to the WWF and he was tagging with, I don't know if you know Chris Benoit.
Yeah.
But he was Chris Benoit that killed his family.
Mm-hmm.
He was tagging with that guy at the time that happened. And they pretty much cut this guy and pulled him off of TV because of the close association with Chris Benoit.
It sucks for him.
Yeah, absolutely ruined his career.
But Chris Benoit, he was like the big reason. Many people say that the big reason why this happened to him is because he took so many bumps on the head. He did like a flying headbutt.
Yep, that's absolutely correct. He had lost a lot of the gray matter in his brain and had the concussion syndrome because he took a lot of. I tell you what, if you get an opportunity on some of the networks that they have, when WCW had their 2-hour show Nitro, they really leaned on Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero. Both guys are dead now.
Yeah.
And the absolute physicality that those guys performed at was off the charts. And the chair shots that they would take, and as you said, the flying headbutt off the top rope, and Eddie did an over the top rope headbutt. You just literally beat your brains out.
Yeah.
And that's what happened with those guys. That combined with the steroids, combined with the alcohol abuse.
Yeah, and then when you get hooked on the painkillers and all of that, that's just
Yep.
that's a poisonous combination.
Yeah,
Let's
absolutely. It starts your judgment gets skewed.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Let's continue for a little bit. I'm enjoying this compilation here. I can imagine you are as well.
Oh yeah, good times, man.
Yeah. This.
Oh
here.
yeah, the kick.
Like that looks brutal. Like when you do this, do you
I tell
make
you what.
contact?
Oh, absolutely. It's funny because I always wanted to do that a little different. I always wanted to try to add a little different flavor to anything that I was going to do. I didn't just want to do the same thing you're going to see every time. And when I first started calling this move right here, I would say, all right, so you hit the corner and you take 3 steps out, and then I'm going to kick you. But what they would do is people would start stepping underneath it and bumping before the kick. So what I would do is I'd say, all right, you take 3 steps out of the corner, and I would kick them after 1 step or after 2 steps. That way I would make sure that I got the good contact. I wasn't trying to kill them or hurt them, but I was also not trying to make it look weak.
Yeah. Yeah,
I got that guy.
Yeah. That is a vital part of the business. You can't look weak.
That's absolutely not. You're going to kill that love and passion in a kid's eyes. You can see it.
Yeah.
The first time that you miss and they know that you missed, you know that you've lost them.
Yeah. And a similar move like ended like a famous wrestler's career, like Bret Hart. A kick like that.
Absolutely. It was a kick exactly like that, and he gave him a concussion. He didn't think that it was coming at all. He didn't realize that it was coming the way it was coming at all, and he just didn't get the step underneath it and didn't get his hand up in time.
And the guy who did that, he was like infamous for being like a rough
stiff
worker. Yeah.
He was a former NFL player. Yeah, I just had this conversation last night with a guy. He was an absolute physical specimen, 6'3", 295, former defensive lineman, but he had no control over his body.
Yeah.
And they put what we call a rocket ship to his ass. He was trained and world champ within 6 months because of his look and because of his intensity. And he didn't have the respect for the business that he should have had, and for the other guy in the ring too at the same time.
Because like he was also like a master of so-called squash matches where he just makes the other guy look like a little bitch, right?
Yeah. 90 seconds or less was his first 100 matches. Didn't go over the 2-minute mark because it would expose him for being untrained and unprofessional.
And one of the secrets of this business really is that you have to have like immense cardio to do this.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I tell anybody, get up there. If you can even just run the ropes with nobody touching you for 5 minutes, you will see. You'll be absolutely blown up. What we call blown up is not being able to breathe, heart pounding out of your chest.
And remember, like a lot of the muscle-bound guys, like the Ultimate Warrior and those guys, they couldn't work unless it was extremely slowly because they were so muscular that they couldn't maintain any cardiovascular integrity.
Oh, yeah. Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior, their whole match was dependent on, they do a big deal to get to the ring, but then they'd spend the whole 2 to 3 minutes getting beat up, and then they'd power back up for the last 30 seconds and win.
Yeah.
That was their whole stick.
Let's have a look at the next one, Will.
Yeah, that's another kick here.
Boom.
And I tell the guy as we're going to stand up, I say, watch your face.
Yeah.
That right here. I say, watch your face. And he knows that it's coming.
You're making calls in the ring as you're doing it?
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. And you got to know, like, this guy knew that I was known for the kick. Yeah. So he knew when I said, watch your face, he knew to be looking for the kick. I also wore motocross boots here, and they weren't a big fan. A lot of the guys did not like those. They had the metal clips, and they had the metal shank in them. Those weren't real popular.
And like that guy, like this is, if we have a look at it again here, like this is quite a fall that he's taking too. Like he goes over the rope.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that guy,
Like,
man, is he was the head wrestling coach for Oklahoma State University as well. He was a high school coach or a high school wrestler himself. Went on to have a great collegiate career, and then went on to coach at the University or at Oklahoma State University. Great guy, Howard Moore.
Yeah, and as I said, going over the top rope, like a flip like this, like even I can imagine like the level of training, balance, and composure you have to have for this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Watch him. If you see his arm, he'll hook that top rope. That is such a small little thing, but it's so vital. The guy that I was referring to with Chris Benoit earlier, I was in a match where him and the rope broke. Ooh. And he was going over the top like that. Yeah. And he wrapped his arm and was able to hold on to the rope. You really have to be super spatial aware in the moment because anything can happen. And you really have to really watch out for yourself, because after I kick him getting to that concrete floor is all on him. Yeah. He just has to know how to fall.
Let's have a look at the next one. So, yeah, he hooks the rope there. Yeah. And this.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
clothesline.
I know, like, if people listen to that, like, if we have, play that again.
The impact on his chest.
Yeah. I'm gonna play that absolutely. A little louder here. Sorry.
No, you're good. I love that sound.
yeah, that just listen for that sound.
That was absolutely my arm on his chest making that cha.
And
sweet sound.
Yeah, I've seen people take like very rough clotheslines. Those things will legit, like, almost take your head off.
Yeah, you can absolutely take somebody. I tell you what, though, to your point there, I was professional and he was professional in that where I laid it at on his chest. The whole secret to the clothesline is not to come in high. Yeah. And if you come in too high and you hit their Adam's apple or their windpipe, you could absolutely kill them.
Yeah.
But I hit him square right. My arm was right where his nipples are on his chest. That's exactly where you want to be. And if you're taking or doing a move onto the back, that's exactly where you want it. The widest, flattest part of either the chest or the back is the safest place to make contact.
Let's have a look at the next one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we'll take that last one.
It's one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons why I'm 2 inches shorter now than I was when I graduated high school.
But that slam before that, before we show that leg drop, because I know what a killer that is. But that slam, like again, like this is something that, like, this is not easy to take. Just it looks painful.
And with a move like that, it's got a lot of visual principles that you got to keep in mind. Like, I wanted to stall it out at the top for the visual, so everybody could take it in for a moment. But also, while I'm stalling out, all the blood is rushing to that guy's head. So when we do actually drop it, he actually feels a pretty good bit of that. That was a move that I created myself too. I was pretty proud of that one.
It looks like it takes quite a bit of strength to perform, and you're a huge guy in it. But though, actually, as you said, you're an average-sized wrestler, right?
Yeah, 6'3", 265 back then was pretty average. I would be on the larger side again now because it's shifted kind of to the smaller, non-athletic guys nowadays.
But we're gonna watch this one next, and I imagine, like, just watching it.
I can still feel this one.
Yeah, I don't doubt it, because I watched the landing as it took place. Just gonna put the volume down a little bit.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That hurt me way worse than it hurt him.
Yeah. No, you sold that pretty well though. Afterwards,
Oh
you,
yeah,
you
yeah. I
celebrated
tell you
there.
what, that was yeah. Actually, that one wasn't the exact time that I hurt my back. That when I did it there, that clip that you showed was probably 2 years after it because I was out of the biz for a solid year before I could get back. Like I said, I didn't walk for 6 months, and it took me a full year to get back in the ring. But one of the things I had to do for myself was I had to not let that move get me.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
came back and I wanted to be able to perform it again.
That's very normal.
Yeah, not sadomasochistic at all,
No, no, not at all. And
huh?
like I actually watched. There was this WWE guy that did this move, but from the top of a cage, and
Oh yeah,
he hurt himself so bad that it was like his tailbone fused with his hip bone or something.
yeah.
It was absolute mess. He can't walk properly or anything after that.
Don't do it! Man, don't do it! No, don't do it! Think of your family, man! Think of your fans! Think of everybody!
Like this is it's insane the
Like I said,
punishment on the body.
when I originally did the one that where it put me out for the 6 months without walking, I exploded, literally exploded 2 discs. They told me after that they wanted me to get back surgery and that I was going to be 80% disabled for the rest of my life. That's what they told me. And I wanted to get. I was like, well, tell me a little bit more about this surgery. What are the chances that I do this surgery and there's like it's perfectly successful and I don't have a problem in my back anymore? And he said that's probably only about a 10% chance that it's going to be fully successful. And there's like a 7% chance that we might hit something and make it worse and you never walk again. So I was like, well, no, I'm not going to take those kind of
Yeah,
chances.
yeah.
No, I'll just wait till you get better at the surgery years down the road. That's what I never did, but
And as I said, like hurting yourself so badly to do the move and then coming right back and do it again. I think
yeah,
I think it's pretty obvious that it takes a special kind of maniac to be in this business.
yeah, it absolutely did. Yeah, it's
Let's
like
have a
putting
look at
yourself through a car wreck and then wanting to go back and
yeah.
do it again.
Let's have a look at this next one.
Oh, that kick. Boom.
Yeah, that looked like it made proper impact.
Yep. I did good contact on that. And on this one here, I was using a little softer boot, so it was a little easier on him as well.
Yeah.
There's such a timing. There's such a timing on that move right there.
Yeah. And selling moves is like that's an art form in itself.
It absolutely is. That was one of the things that I think that they really appreciated and saw from me early on was the existential body language, the
Yeah.
facial expressions when you're making it, the way you whip your hair around, just the way you carry yourself is so very important. You got to look like you belong.
Absolutely. Let's have a look at I think there's one left here.
Power slam.
Yeah.
The bounce up off of the ring into my knees. That's the body language kind of thing I'm talking
yeah.
about there.
How hard do you slam it down in that floor?
Oh, it was hard enough that you saw the recoil was enough
Yeah.
to make me come back up to my knees.
I love this stuff. And then there's this one here.
This is the move right here. Yeah, this is the tag move that it's going to hurt them no matter what.
Sheesh.
This commentary is the guy that took the move as well. He talks about it later on after a podcast, and I dubbed his how he remembered it at the time over the top of the move. And that's how he remembered it at the time. He said it was like I saw him coming off the top, and my soul left my body.
Yeah, I mean you're 2 meters up in the air. It's like you're over 6 feet in the air, and like a almost 300-pound man is coming flying at you, and you're at his mercy. I can imagine, like, well, I don't even want to imagine the feeling he's feeling in that exact moment.
But you know, he took it like a champ, man. He really did.
Yeah, that business. Why did you end up getting out? And you mentioned that you're glad you got out at the time. What was it that made you want to get out?
It was several factors that were playing into that. One of them was my wife at the time. I found out the wife I was married to at the time was cheating on me. And she wasn't just cheating on me, she was cheating on me with my best friend's was another wrestler. Him and my wife and his wife would get together when we went out of town and meet other guys. And that was a huge source of embarrassment to me, on top of what happened to me, the fact that she was doing it with his wife, and that cost him his marriage, the whole lifestyle at the time. You know, it hurt like hell. We were traveling 7-8 hours between cities just to get to the next city, just to do that 5 to 10 minute match, to get that high in front of those people. We were only making like $100 to $150 a match. So we would have to put together a weekend of 4 or 5 matches just to make it be financially beneficial. And then I just had a really good business opportunity, had a career to come along that was going to take care of me and take care of my family for the rest of my life. So it was the right time for me to get out. I made a 9-year run at it, and I had a lot of fun. I made a lot of memories.
Your body remembers it as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm reminded every morning when I wake up. Absolutely.
But I mean, that's our duty. Like, in the end, it is to take care of our families. And from what I'm seeing, you're doing a terrific job. I love seeing your family pictures and such on Facebook. So, yeah, it looks like you're doing a top-notch job, buddy.
Yeah, I'm trying, man. I got my 14-year-old boy. That's the next brutal assassin. I've got him in there. We're hitting the weights. He just did another 295-pound squat this week, so I'm getting him trained up. We're going to have another legacy to continue on.
Yeah, we in Iceland. I actually have a son that's 24, and he started to lift. Well, he did that at 16. He was starting to lift more than me, and he's way smarter than me. He just graduated university in computer mathematics, or something that I don't really understand even the concept of. But but in Icelandic, we call that föðurbetringur. It means when the son has surpassed the father, and it's a proud moment in every father's life.
Absolutely, in every culture, absolutely, my friend, absolutely. Yeah, I would not have thought you have a 24-year-old. You must have got started very young, huh?
Yeah, I was 19, and well, I obviously don't regret it, but not gonna lie, I would have liked to be a bit more mature. But obviously, me and his mother did something right, so I can't complain.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Graduating college, man, that's good stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, I've really enjoyed this chat and like learning about this industry, and I'm actually going to edit some the moments that we discussed. I'm going to edit some of these into the video, just to
clean it up a little bit.
Yeah, just to show people, like, I'm going to show when the Undertaker throws mankind off the cage and such. Maybe a picture of Ric Flair when he's old as shit. Doing his
there you go.
wrestling thing. But one of the things I enjoy about Ric Flair that I didn't get until I was older, it's like I would always look at him and he would always look so weak, but he'd always win. But that was his art. He was an artist at making other people look good.
Oh, he absolutely was, and he put his body through absolute punishment as well. I mean, what we were talking about, Hulk Hogan getting beat up for 10 minutes of a 12-minute match. Ric Flair would get beat up for 12 minutes of a 12-minute match, but pull it out the dastardly way at the end.
Yeah, that was like his thing. He would make like someone who was fairly average look absolutely sensational, and he would make it look as Ric Flair was lucky to retain his world championship after that match. But then that same guy would do nothing like later on.
Ever again, yeah. He took a preliminary guy named George South, and he made for 10 minutes made George South look like champ of the world. George South had never won a match on television before, but Ric Flair could make him look like $1 million for 10 minutes straight.
Yeah, I think
that was what he did best. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's a huge reason why, like, if you ask a lot of fans, they will give you this and that answer. But if you ask other wrestlers, there's very few that don't say Ric Flair.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And he was pretty physical too. Those chops were no joke. He would absolutely bring blood to your chest with those chops.
Yeah, I remember those sounds. You can't fake those.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, William, it was great to finally speak to you in person, and I've really enjoyed this chat. I hope you did too.
Absolutely, my friend. It's been absolutely spectacular. I appreciate the time, man.
Yeah, and I'll let you know when this comes out. I'm probably going to take a couple of days to edit it, because I usually don't edit them, but I'm going to put in some like videos, short videos of the moments that we talked about and stuff into all of this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I will
clean it up a little bit, my man.
Yeah, and that when I was trying to move the thing, usually I don't bother editing, but if I'm going to do it, I might as well do it properly.
There you go.
But yeah,
I appreciate you having me, my man.
It was great meeting you, man, and I really appreciate you coming on.
Yep, I appreciate having me, man. Thanks, sir.
See ya.
Later.